Alright. Okay.
We have a small, cozy gathering today because we have some school board folks who were in, so we're double teaming candidates today.
Sure,
it's
sure.
that time of the year, so. And as you know, you probably might already met, Jeff Webb is retired. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of things going on in the newspaper business. I heard that when I went down to the Tampa Tribune. So
not many of them good.
Not many of them good. I'm the guy that can help you in that regard.
Well, let's hope so.
That's what we're talking about.
Buy a lot of ads. That'll help.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll get started here. I'm not going to keep you too long here. John has more, I think, the more specific questions about platforms and things like this. I'll be honest, my general question is, given the situation that, some of the, I guess, disagreements that you've had with the party, however you
party
want to
leaders,
term
not
it.
the party,
okay,
leaders.
The party leaders. Talk to me about just the viability of your candidacy with, I don't know what kind of a coalition or whatever.
Well, you have to talk about. Listen, first of all, the Democratic Party in Florida supports very few candidates.
Mm-hmm.
They never supported me in 2004 or 2006. They in
Right.
fact opposed me with blockers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first they brought in Mr. Whittle from Coral Gables and Delray Beach to block me. They pumped up Mr. Penberthy to block me again in 2006. So we've won that battle this time. Again, it's the leadership. It's not the Democrat. I have
the
yet
leaders are the ones who are controlling what little money they might be allocating.
Well, not
support.
exactly. Not exactly.
So,
there's a lot of there's groups that have been certainly denigrated by the Congresswoman. Those people have a separate agenda that is completely remote from anything the Democratic Party leadership might have. So I'm really, I feel we're in a much better position than we were 2 years ago because of the climate. And I know that because when I go out to public events, events that are where the dominant attendance is of Republicans, and Republicans come up to me and ask me about health care and the homeowners insurance and energy costs and what are your ideas on them. I recently was at the candidate endorsement interview for the Citrus County Board of Realtors. Some of these people I had spoken to, 3 out of 5 I'd spoken to it the week before. And they had asked me questions about health care and a number of these issues. Well, first question, health care. Why are they asking me about my national health care plan? Because they don't have any. If you're not doing business, you can dress as nice as you want. If you're not doing business, you are not paying your bills. And these people are going without health care because as independent contractors, small business people, real estate agents, and this is true throughout the district, in particular worse in Hernando and Citrus County than some of the other areas. Over near Orlando, it's kind of a separate microeconomy over there, but over here it's much different and much worse. And so they wanted to know about that because I offer them something that gives them a base. They're now feeling the pain. 2 years ago, they did not feel the pain. 2 years ago, there was a little bit of a downturn in business. Nothing they couldn't deal with. Now they're doing like no business. Talk to a mortgage broker. He's got a part-time job. Everybody's having to get out of their profession. So what's happened is the real estate people, formerly executive types making very good income, some of them 6 figures, are now in the same boat with people who lay block and people who frame houses. So that's where we are. And that's why there's renewed interest by people who formerly not interested because of ideology. There's casting ideology to the side and looking at who offers solutions for their issues. Of course, the National Catastrophic Homeowners Insurance Plan. Therein, I have a solution that would absolutely put Florida back on a level playing field with places that are now taking what would be residents of Florida coming down in retirement to live here. They're now residing, taking up residence in North Carolina or South Carolina, places that don't have this hurricane issue. So, but obviously we've seen that there's more more initiative with regard to a plan such as mine, because we looked at what happened in the Mississippi River. We look at the tornado damage. We look at these issues. And of course, I put this together with the input from insurance executives when I put this together. So it hasn't received the publicity that it deserves.
Well, clearly these folks are interested in all of these topics. How is that interest translating into support?
Well, I'm going to give you, this is our donor brochure that we feel has the message, and we're getting going with that. So while we haven't raised much money to date, we in the end feel we're going to raise sufficient funds to get our message out. And with that, being successful in that, I will be the next congressman in the 5th Congressional District.
And Ginny has upwards of $500,000.
Actually, 250 is what it was reported last week. She's burned through $250,000 recently.
Okay, I heard it was close to that, but she has a substantial lead in that regard.
It's not just about money this time. We're in a different climate. The climate that I just described.
Well, how do you get your message out then? How do you
by raising money?
Folks?
Look at what she's done to the Muslim community, what she's done to the Puerto Rican community. One of my motivations for running this time was all the emails I was receiving from veterans. Now, granted, the veterans don't have a lot of money, a lot of the veterans that are contacting me, because these are enlisted veterans. There's two sets of veterans here. The ones that to support her are the officer groups, the 20-year people, and then there's the whole rest of the enlisted people. People with Agent Orange who were only a 2-year stint in Vietnam, and they receive, if they receive it, non-service related disability for Agent Orange, having to pay for the testing, pulling $200 out of their pocket to get the testing themselves. Whereas if you're an officer or a 20-year person, you're getting full service related disability. A lot of issues there. She voted against mandatory funding of the Veterans Administration. John Russell is a firm advocate for fully funding the Veterans Administration. And indeed, when you as a service man or woman sign up with the armed forces, you swear an oath to protect and serve this country and its Constitution. And we have yet to swear that oath, which would be full funding of the Veterans Administration, the backside, as these veterans call it, backside being left in the rears for the front side. Indeed, when you talk about the war, which Ginny has been tied to the hip with the Bush administration throughout her tenure, and that goes back to her Senate career as well. We have seen that she's voted against the interests of working people and families. When we talk about oil, she wants to give tax breaks for oil companies to build refineries. Well, you know what? What were the profits, the largest profits of any corporation or industry group in the history that we've been recording these things? And has anybody heard about retained earnings? Absolutely. That is because the petroleum industry understands that their window is a short one going forward with fossil fuels. American Petroleum Institute blonde and black commercials. We're going to power 60 million cars for the next 60 years. How many cars we got on the road right now in this country? Way more than 60 million cars. So it's ludicrous, the arguments going forward. I have here, and she's a big proponent of drilling, from your paper in 2005, an article that's titled by Mr. Craig Pittman, Gulf Rigs Could Tar Both Coasts. And fundamentally what we're talking about, you know, the U.S. Coast Guard, and this has kind of been covered up a little bit, but not by the official White House report that Bill Nelson alluded to about a week ago. As a result, U.S. Coast Guard officials said more than 7 million gallons of petroleum products spilled from Katrina and Rita. By comparison, in 1989, the Exxon Valdez spilled 11 million gallons. So, as T. Boone Pickens says, I think he is quite an advocate for peak oil. If anybody knows something about oil, a guy who's been very successful in that area, I think he does. If T. Boone Pickens says the most oil we'll ever produce is 85 million barrels a day, and the demand right now currently is 87 million barrels a day, that tells you the story of rising gas prices and the precarious nature of our petroleum-oriented economy. When we talk about where we get the oil from, the Middle East, were we on any given day to attack Iran or Israel to attack Iran, all they have to do is pop a couple of missiles into a couple of tankers in the Straits of Hormuz, and we will be in the next Great Depression inside of 2 hours of that, because 40% of the world's oil flows through that narrow passage on any given day.
Let me slow you down here for a second.
Yeah.
we could go off.
I'm just pointing out.
Because, number one, you haven't survived the primary yet, so we'll have time to talk about Jenny when.
Well, we're very confident about surviving the primary.
Okay, well, let's dial back then. I don't know if you've completely finished up with, we're talking about just the party leadership and everything, because I do want to get a grasp as to.
Well, the important issues are these issues. I'll talk to you about. You want a full description of the Disney
well, not
thing?
The chapter and verse with Disney. I think we understand what was going on with Disney.
Well, maybe you do and maybe you don't.
You've run now several times.
This is the third time. Who wins? Who wins on a first occasion?
Why is it that you're having this friction with the leadership? I mean, if they're looking at you as their strongest viable candidate,
absolutely we are.
And at a time when a national election and Democrats are on the ascendancy and everything else, I would think they'd have you up on their shoulders and carrying you around. But it doesn't seem to be happening, and I don't quite, from your perspective, why?
Let me say this. A party official, I'll be very brief on this because this is not what's important here. What's important are these issues that we're talking about.
Well, clearly.
Yeah, and I'm gonna allay your. A party official in Pasco County said that we're going to find a winner for this. We're going to find a winner. John Russell's not a winner in no uncertain terms, and the friction is that I'm a populist person for the people. These people are corporate oriented, a little different from the Republicans that they would like to replace. It's just about power with them. Insofar as my position with the party people, I learned as I came up, in my involvement with the party that, doing things that this is ridiculous. Doing things that let me just stop. I cannot take a call right now. Let's turn this off. My apologies. I should have just left it in the car. That was a stupid move on my part.
Not a problem.
Getting back to this. So they said they'd get a winner. Well, you know what? I waited and waited. I didn't do anything. I waited and waited and waited. I did not sign on to run for this office until 40 minutes left in qualifying. We drove up to Tallahassee, and had they brought up their winner, their party-oriented person, I would not have filed to run for this office. And indeed, if they brought somebody in at 5 minutes to 12, I would have asked for my check back. Okay? So I'm actually stepping up to save the party from great embarrassment, and whether I win or lose, the point is that having myself as a candidate, a strong candidate, maybe you say, well, if you're just grading the money, and I believe we're going to get enough money to compete in this race by the time things are all said and done. Then if that's all you grade things by, that's one thing. But if you grade things by character and integrity, and I've demonstrated my character and integrity when I've taken on party leaders for not being actually actively putting themselves in a position to compete. When you're taking $3,500 a month from Al Cardenas, the former head of the Florida Republican Party, who has the leverage there? It's not the Democratic Party and the leader of the Florida Democratic Party. It's the Republicans. And so how can you play opposition? It's like us being in debt to China to fund this war. What leverage do we have in foreign policy with China when we're so far in debt and all they got to do is cut off our credit card a little bit and things really begin to spiral out of control more than they are. So yes, there was in Disney, there was no fracas. I was the one assaulted by a 6'6" second-rate former pro wrestler and from behind. If I was an older man, I would have been on the floor with the force that he struck me. My only mistake was not having this little camera on from the time I walked in, which was 5 minutes before I was assaulted. Okay? So where's the problem? Yes, I objected. I objected because, you know what? I am a Democrat founded on the principles of people, education, health care, a strong military that only is used when appropriate. That's the kind of person that I am. And there's reams of data, and I'm sure that John here has been to my website, 100 pages or more of information on where my positions are. And no one can, I was recently endorsed nationally by Progressive Democrats of America. That's going to get me on national radio shows and so on. We're taking this thing national. Okay? Because to replace someone the likes of Ginny Brown Wade with someone like me, with the kinds of pain and problems that the people of the 5th Congressional District, and not only this district, but nationally are feeling. Banks are going under every day. Where are we headed? When did we last see that kind of financial catastrophe, and how did we get here? So this election is really very simple. It's, do you want to stay on the path you're on? Where were you? As Ronald Reagan famously said, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago, or 2 years ago, or 6 years ago? And responsibility is not just with being the Congresswoman. It goes back into the Senate, time in the Senate. When was this pup company thing passed that keeps insurance rates high for consumers, you know, and profits high for the corporate offices, says State Farm buying reinsurance from State Farm National. So when you talk about that, strong with the corporation, I'm strong with the consumer on the insurance. Voting against negotiation of prices for Medicare Part D. Who's that for? That's for the pharmaceutical companies. It's not for the consumers. Voting for tax breaks for the oil companies to build refineries when they have more than enough money to build them even at $1 billion a piece themselves if they want to. You know, I'm missing some. Oh, Archer Daniels Midland, the ethanol thing. She wants to do ethanol. Has anybody here checked your mileage with 100% straight gas versus the ethanol-laced gas that have been mandated that every station here is going to eventually have? It's not a pretty picture, and it's a fraud. It's a watering down of gasoline, as is that reinsurance is a fraud as well. So I'm offering people a change in direction. I am going to be the only alternative they're going to have. So you stay with the same, see what got you here. Someone who is very good at getting elected, but once elected, what does she do? And you can ask yourself this very important question. What bill has she authored or co-sponsored that actually helped working families? I think we know what that answer is. It's none.
What lessons did you take away from the last time you ran? It was a very contentious kind of a race, and sometimes that drowned out whatever message you might have been bringing.
And that was all engineered by Ginny, and that's that's what I've learned. Okay, where is the talk of the issues when all you're talking about is fracas, if you want to use that word, caused by her people. 50 people, whenever I talk, screaming at the top of their lungs, that drowns out me with a PA system. That's what we have because she cannot compete on the issues. I expect even an exponentially greater effort in that regard from her team this time, and will not put up with that for 1 second. It's a purely disrespectful for the voters that they're not allowed to hear a debate of the issues that are important to them, and instead to have it's supplanted by this hooliganism by her people. My people are going to have zip lips and are not going to entertain any of this for 1 second, and I will ask that these people be removed summarily, because this is not just normal enthusiasm. This was trying to shut the thing down and shut down my voice. So we're not going to have that happen this time. You know,
you keep that from happening without just duking it out, without getting right into.
I'm not going to get into that. No, because when I'm on the stage, there's supposed to be a moderator at these things, right? right?
The one that we moderated up in Citrus County here, and it was very close to getting out of control with, as you say, with the both.
But it wasn't me. No, not both factions. That's where you're.
Well,
my people obviously
I was
reacted.
there, John.
Oh, I know, and I was too, And the point being,
behind her and called her a coward. That.
Who did that? I didn't ever did.
Yeah, you did.
No, I
You
never
walked
did.
right past her.
No, I never called her anything. You want to hear what she?
You called her a coward as you walked behind her to get the phone, to get the microphone, and that just lit off the group that was right in front of you.
I never. That is purely fabrication because I never said a word to Ginny, not one. I never said a word to her.
Well, your word,
okay,
I heard it, but
no.
that was the.
That is not a word that I use. I might use some other word, but I never called her a coward. I never. You misheard. Okay.
Well,
the bottom line is, I am a very.
We have it on tape, but that's another story.
Well, yeah, and you do. It's fine. When we're going to have everything on tape, I'm going to be walked in. Nobody's going to assault me like I was up in Citrus County, at the Citrus Chronicle Forum, assaulted, and that appeared in the paper by your reporter, Elena Leslie. John being her protege, I know what to expect from the newspapers. Okay, they're not on the side of the people; they're on the side of keeping the status quo, and they do that by being, not so objective in their cataloging of events. You might this time, since you guys, maybe your situation, employment-wise, may not be as stable as it once was, as we've seen, as you mentioned to me, the changes in this industry. They're actually having people over in India writing stories for publication here. This is where we are. So everybody's in the same boat, and if we want to improve the lot for everyone, remember, all boats rise when the middle class is doing well, and they're not. That's where we can go with this thing. If you want to just write about, one person says one word on my side, and all of a sudden it's both sides are going bananas.
Where I'm going with it, John, is that, as you point out, there are some very, very important issues now facing this country.
Exactly, and I have solid positions on all of them.
Okay, and to get to the point where the people can actually hear what you have to say and contrast.
We need to keep people quiet.
It gets drowned out with the din of all, and that takes on.
And who's people? Who is the dominant force in that group? 50 people with yellow shirts on.
It takes two to tango.
No. There's no tangoing. The two was me on the stage and the 50 people screaming at the top of their lungs. I know, I experienced it. And it'll all be on tape this time, so no matter how it's reported, my people are going to be firmly instructed, zip the lips. My people are not going to interrupt and be disrespectful through the process and to fellow voters. Okay? That's it. So, and I understand how she operates. This is her only club in the bag, especially this time, as I just illuminated. Corporations with Ginny, the people elsewhere, and that includes enlisted veterans. She can give out medals all she wants with her name on them. Karen Thurman never used to put her name on these World War II service medals. That's egregious. Okay, I haven't seen one personally, but I've talked to plenty of people. And the veterans, they understand what it's about and they laugh at it. But the veterans, what group would be most, these enlisted veterans, these are probably some of the most economically disaffected people in our community because they paid the price and maybe didn't get the opportunities that the officer class, which supports Ginny, did after their service in Vietnam.
I think, if I can interrupt, what he's getting at here is, earlier in this interview, you claim to have the higher character and integrity, regardless of what happened off the tape at Disney, or regardless of what happened to initiate the fracas, as you call it, at the...
What initiated?
Regardless of what initiated the Disney thing and the
forum. So no matter who starts a fight, it's...
And the forum thing, your reactions caught on tape and caught at the forum. What does that say about your character?
It says I was a little bit inexperienced. That's what it says. I was inexperienced at dealing with this. I was ill-prepared, one might say, for the kind of assault that I experienced. Okay? And John, I don't know when you came into the game here and how much of this you've seen. Maybe you've seen some of these tapes. I don't know that they're on the internet anymore. They used to be on the internet, you know. And
What about Disney? I mean, the stuff caught on tape on Disney, and I wrote that story. What does that say about your character integrity and the kind of person people are electing?
it says that I will stand up to anyone, no matter which party they're in. If you look at that brochure, you see what I'm talking about. When I talk about Washington politicians being hand in glove and representing corporate interests, both Democrats and Republicans, then what I'm talking about is having someone there to represent the people, who is not just merely serving their benefactors. And that's what Ginny does. And Ginny has plenty of partners in that. That's the status quo. And that's why we're in the position we're in. Why we've had, you know, the mortgage crisis. Another, you know,
not to go off on tangents. We're going to get to the issues.
That's not a tangent. It's just explanatory and documentary.
Because what works in Congress is compromise. And
Exactly does.
And you have to be able to work with other people on different sides.
And you always get that question.
How do you plan on doing that if you can't get along with the people you're running with?
I absolutely get along with the people, and that's where you're distorting. Just because we're...
you get along with the chairwoman of the Florida Democratic Party.
Why should I get along with someone who is doing things that are not right? When you oppose someone, when you shine light on
How many of the local Democratic Party executive committee chairmen or chairwomen are supporting your campaign?
I would say all but one, who is a hand in glover with Karen Thurman. All but one.
What counties? Or who's the one, I guess?
It would be Pasco County. The same one that said we're going to find a winner. We're going to find a winner, and she hasn't found a winner. She didn't find anybody that would have caused me to step aside. So, where were we? The Disney thing, you know, and I know you're preoccupied because it's exciting, you know. You're going to cause friction. You're going to cause friction when you oppose someone. If you stand up to someone, is it going to be all vanilla?
When do you take the higher ground to live and fight another day? How much damage do you think that this?
They did more damage when you saw. Listen, here's the point. Going forward, there's going to be in this election. Incumbent is a 4-letter word. I'm not the incumbent, and that is going to be true across this country as both Republicans and Democrats are replaced. There's going to be a new group.
You still got to give people a reason to vote for you.
And there are 100 pages.
Well, they've got to like the person and they've got to like the position.
I'm a likable guy. How would I survive in healthcare for 25 years, taking care of little old ladies, half naked, saving people's lives, including over at the VA Medical Center emergency room in Tampa this past fall, saving people's lives, and dealing with people when we're talking about when they have difficult decisions to make, like taking a loved one off life support, be they a young man like yourself with a massive head injury from a motorcycle accident, or an older person who has had a massive intracranial hemorrhage because they had an aneurysm in their head, and talking to these families. That's who does it. I do. John Russell does that. And so how can I be characterized except with this cartoonish atmosphere that's manufactured by the incumbent so that she doesn't have to talk about the issues, and the whole story, which people are more than happy to write, is about a bunch of hooligans screaming at John Russell so he can't say his speech.
You don't think your actions make you look cartoonish? Your own actions, not any other actions, other people's actions?
My actions were one of an inexperienced candidate. I'm now an experienced candidate.
I guess my question is, I see you at numerous anti-war rallies. I've seen.
Well, how could you? I haven't been to an anti-war rally in a long time.
One in Brooksville we covered 3-4 months ago.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
And let me just answer the question. The anti-war rally in Brooksville, the Disney episode at the forums, even in this interview. I mean, is this how you talk to patients, or is there a different John Russell than
you are actively engaging me in?
As with a family on whether or not.
No. You're in an aggressive stance, trying to pull out any kind of dirt or material that you can find to concoct a story. John, I've seen your stories, and your stories are something less than. I'm just being honest. I'm an honest guy, and that gets me in trouble sometimes, and it may get me in trouble here. But the point is, when someone is being aggressive towards me, I may react by asking some serious questions back. And have I ever been arrested? Was I arrested at Citrus Chronicle Forum when I was accused of taking a swing by Bill Grant, a story written on one person's account, a lawyer, the Republican Executive Committee Chair for Citrus County, written on one person's account? Is that proper journalism? No, it's not.
Well, I guess that's not my question. What I'm trying to get at is, in politics, it's a give and take. You've got
I can give and take with
You've got to
strength.
convince people of your position, of your ability to win, and when you insult their personal integrity like you just did to us, I wonder if you're doing this to voters on the
John, I'm being honest with you. I've seen what you've written. In a phone call last week, you're trying to pry things out just to try and get an angle away from the issues. Report the issues and you'll do the people a service.
We're going to get to the issues, but you're going long-winded, and there's some personal questions that we have to get, because what voters elect is
I wrote everything down, didn't I?
You did, but you didn't answer everything, and you illuminated a lot of different things when we talked, and I appreciate
Okay, fire away. I'm sitting here ready to hear what you have to ask me and answer it in an honest manner.
Sorry about that tangent. Do you want me to just keep going?
Yeah, just keep going. I mean, come on.
The floor.
We're having fun. I mean, come on. I knew this was going to come, and it's nothing. It's just common.
What I need to deal with is specifics here. You make comments like Jenny Brown Wade voting against fully funding the VA. What bill was that? What vote was that?
Do
you have any backup?
You can go to middleclass.org, which is a link on my website, actually, I believe. I think you'll find it there.
Okay.
Okay.
So her Senate career tied her to the Bush War? What are you talking about?
She was hand in glove with Jeb Bush in her Senate career. And when you look at 1993...
What does that have to do with George Bush and the war in Iraq?
The Senate doesn't have anything to do with the war in Iraq.
Okay, because
the Florida Senate, no.
You tied her to Bush and
she was
his
with
war.
Jeb Bush. She was with
didn't
Jeb.
vote for the war.
No, she didn't vote for the war. She was not in there then.
No.
Karen Thurman voted for the war.
Yes.
Okay, I understand that. Okay, but she's voted to fund it.
Yes.
And she's never offered
understand.
one scintilla of criticism, and anybody who said anything against it, she was very critical of, calling people unpatriotic. And you call me vitriolic or whatever you want to call it, but no one ever speaks of Jeannie Brown Wade and the sarcastic remarks that she comes up with, even in the events that I attended. I get up there and I very calmly say my college degrees and everything else at Ridge Manor last time. Okay, what does she get up there and say? She says, "Well, I taught most of those courses he took," and it's like, that's a true story. And you got to be kidding me. It's like, well, I'm the one with 2 master's degrees, not her. I mean, this is what you're dealing with. She is an incendiary personality in her own right. Even stories that I've written written by the St. Petersburg Times calls her blasting. Blasting this person, blasting that person. Look at her on my website is a video of a TV news story where she is called the Muslims, defended that Hogan like 2 days after the election, and she's getting interviewed on there. I don't see any you can look at that right on my website right now and see what kind of nonsense is coming out of her there, and trying to backpedaling big time. And this is a direct quote, every single terrorist act except for Timothy McVeigh was committed by a Muslim in this country. Okay, and the letter she wrote, I don't see anybody jumping all over her for totally inappropriate and outlandish.
I can read the archives of the St. Pete Times. She'd be the first one to say that we are on.
Well, but the point is, I'm getting the publicity because I stand up and I don't back down.
She has no time for us.
Yeah, I stand up and I don't back down. And so when you don't back down, you're gonna have, in a physical world like in high school. For example, in high school, and I didn't get in many fights, and I'm an ice hockey player, and I usually throw the second punch after I'm hit first. And this is going back years and years. So in high school, I think it was 11th grade, this big guy, Mark Johnson, I knocked his book off his desk. And he goes, "John, pick it up." I wouldn't pick it up. "Okay, I'll see you down by the library." Okay? Marched down by the library, and I had been abused kind of by the hard guys, the leather jacket crowd. Okay, went down to the library. He hit me first. I was all over him. Done. Never had one hint of trouble from the hard guys ever again. In fact, I was well respected after that because I opposed them. Now that's high school. When we talk in this instance, if I'm going to back down, I'm trying to give you an analogy of...
And I'm trying to wonder why people want to elect a guy who beat up people in high school.
I didn't beat up people. I got no... Did you never get in a fight, John? You never got in a fight? You've never been in a fight. Did you ever play any sports?
I play ice hockey.
You played ice hockey. You never got in a fight playing ice hockey.
In the arena and then in the hallway of a classroom is different.
I didn't get it. This is a typical high school experience.
That's fine. I'm just wondering what you're
lot.
trying to say here.
I'm trying to make an analogy as to you stand up. I stood up. I didn't back down. And in politics, I'm standing up and not backing down. And so there's going to be friction and smoke and sparks and fire when you don't back down. I'm a principled guy. Like I said, I wouldn't be professionally where I am in taking care of people, being given the right to provide care for sick people, critically ill people on lots of drips, where we're managing their cardiac rhythms and their blood pressure and everything. All these kind of things. I'm trusted by professionals. The doctors respect my judgment. They listen to me when I say something. And that is the kind of important position I hold professionally. And I'm bringing that kind of backbone, intelligence, and decision-making ability that will be objective and authentic on behalf of working people, and not on behalf of those who merely give me a check. I support only those who give me a check or go out and scream for me on the sidewalk or at a rally to drown out my competitor. No. And the veterans will tell you this. The seniors will tell you this. You know, I'm just trying to...
Answer this question for me. You talking politics and you talking medical, what's different between those two John Russells? Because...
There's nothing different. There's nothing different between. There's nothing different, John.
Okay.
I'm not opposed when I'm talking to a doctor about.
I'm just trying to find out your inner core. You're obviously passionate about politics. No one can fault you for that. It's just in Congress, if you stand up and don't back down, at what point do you become ineffective because no one will work with you?
That's not what we're talking about.
Well, that's what I'm.
You're going to compromise. Yeah, I know that's what you're talking about. I'm not talking about that. You're trying to portray me as what you want to portray me as, rather than say.
I'm trying to see how you're going to be effective in Congress.
We're going to sit down and we're going to say, okay, fellas, we're sitting in a room like this with 10 other people or other Congress people, and we're going to sit there and we're going to have objectives, and yeah, you can say, well, you know what? It's kind of like a card game. You know, we're going to say, well, you know what? We can possibly lighten up on this area, and you know, maybe I can certainly support what you're talking about. I mean, I had a contributor call me last night and gave me his 21 points that he wants me to. You know, I didn't agree with him on everything, but you know, most of the things I did. I'm not agreeing with him on a flat tax. But you know what? He's sending me a check because he believes in me and he understands that when I say something, I mean it and I will follow through. And so. Would you rather have someone, number one, we're going to have a Democratic Congress here. So who's going to have more power in a Democratic Congress? Ginny Brown Waite, a Republican, or John Russell, a guy, a Democrat coming in there who is going to be working more of the company line for the people? That's what we're talking about.
One last thing about what you've said, and then we'll move on to some of the other things.
Sure.
It's fascinating to watch you bash or just talk about the Democratic Party folks who you don't get along with, and then have you also say that now you're coming in as their savior to try to help them save face in this. I just can't grasp that in my mind.
Because maybe you're not as... Listen, these people didn't fulfill their promise.
Yeah,
okay?
I got all that part. It's just, what do you think of your position now as savior? If that's how you're going to paint yourself.
I'm going to provide them a credible candidate which will help Barack Obama rather than having someone less credible. I'm trying to be diplomatic here about my competitors.
And you may have a point, and it's just fascinating. It obviously doesn't change how you campaign, though.
My campaigning is, we're in a little bit of a debate here. I wouldn't call this a discussion. It's more of a debate. You're trying to make your point. I'm trying to refute your points, okay?
I'm wondering if your campaign is going to mirror the previous ones.
Not at all. I just told you how we're going to handle it.
Okay, then that's the answer. No was all I needed.
Yeah, we're not going to. Yeah, no.
On your brochure, it says Ginny Brown Waite authored a bill to exhume and ship home fallen veterans of D-Day.
I have that bill. I should have brought it with me. I have it sitting on the table at home.
So you're opposed to Americans being able to return home? Is that what you're talking about?
No, this was a ludicrous thing. Yeah, you need to look at that because
I remember writing a
okay,
bill.
it was absolutely laughable. So you're going to say she did not understand that the Normandy cemeteries are deeded American soil. Deeded American soil, cared for like Augusta National Golf Club, where the French, even at that time, when there's people that can't come over on Memorial Day to take care of their loved ones' graves, okay, those French people assign themselves a grave and they take care of it, put flowers on it, and that sort of thing. The grateful French people for the sacrifices made by our veterans in Normandy. Okay, so she says we're going to take a front end loader. And we're going to exhume all these cemeteries, put them in a belly of a ship, and bring them back over here. They died with their buddies. They rest with their buddies that they fought and died with on that fateful day.
You just don't. You think they should stay there? Is the point? I'm just wondering where you fall.
If someone wanted, to, we don't. I think as a matter of course, we don't bury our fallen heroes where they fell in this day. But on that day where thousands of people die, that cemetery was created for these men to rest in peace with their brothers, with their fallen comrades.
Moving on.
Yeah, but it's a ludicrous bill.
That's to allow lead paint and toys.
Yeah, she voted against it.
What
was the Consumer Protection Act? She voted against that. Look it up. I mean, it's there. It's on the middleclass.org thing. It's a link on Ginny Facts.
What's your goal in fundraising? How much do you plan
we need to have about 25% of what she has, and I'll be a congressman. Okay?
You said, I think, I read in Hernando Today recently, or in some brochure, I guess, it talks about how you were outspent 20-1. And
it's in the brochure right there.
You kind of implied that that's one of the reasons why you lost.
No, what I implied was, despite being outspent 20-1,
4-1, and you expect to win.
4-1, I expect to win. 4-1, I expect to win because her premise is a totally flawed one. All I have to do is show people that I'm not the ogre that she's going to try and portray me as, with a few ads on TV. I'm not going to give my whole strategy, my campaign strategy. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a strategy. If I'm going to throw it down, out, and go, as I told young John here, am I going to tell you that? Hey, by the way,
political consultants, right? But you won't say who they are.
Yeah. Okay. Because I want my campaign to be my campaign. I don't want somebody else characterizing it for me.
Have you done any polling yet?
We're going to be, and I think we'll be very happy about what we find there. Yeah, haven't done that. Yeah.
When talking about cafe standards, you bash the cap and trade system as a shell game, but you don't suggest a solution. If you don't like cap and trade,
I have solutions. Right now, I'm acquainted with two people, and this is all over the internet. I'm acquainted with two people who are running their cars. This is a demand issue, first of all, the petroleum issue. It's about demand. It's not about the supply. It's demand.
On cafe standards, cap and trade, you don't favor. What do you plan on doing?
I favor increased cafe standards. Absolutely. Absolutely increased. Got to get increased mileage. That's been opposed.
Do you not feel like there needs to be an economic incentive for America to move toward a more stable energy plan?
That's what I'm about. Alternative energy. If not now, this is the time to transition. Okay. If not now, so not in 60 years.
Do you think businesses should get financial incentives for
ideas to move forward? Here's one right now.
So they can get government subsidies for alternative energy. You favor
absolutely for there's production incentives and then there's consumer incentives. We already have consumer incentives. You get $4,000 back if you buy a hybrid. Okay, a $4,000 tax credit if you buy a hybrid like a Prius or something like that. Okay, so I know two people right now that are doing on-demand hydrogen. Call it brown gas, okay? And you can buy, you've seen they run your car on water, you've seen this thing. That's what it is. HHO. There's 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen in the water. It's just electrolysis of water. And what it does is basically brings up your city mileage to that of your highway mileage. So that's about a 20% increase right there. So if it's a demand problem, why aren't we commercializing this? Let me tell you why we're not. Because the oil industry wants to restrain progress in this area of alternative fuels, even though they give lip service to it with the blonde and black commercials, etc. American Petroleum Institute, promoted, financed, because any major move in this area makes their business model of the last 100 years obsolete. And what does that do? It benefits the consumer greatly. When we talk about energy, decentralized power generation, I've been a big proponent of that. All the stuff's on my website. Lots of mileage there with links and everything else. And I won't say I have footnotes, but the stuff is, I back it up pretty fair. Where we have to go, and that's what I'm about. I'm about going in a new direction. Ginny's about more drilling. And of course, we have this story right here that shows what that's about.
With immigration, you favor the statutes in place, and you favor fining employers heavily and thinking them.
I have a very detailed plan there.
When they can't find jobs, about a large part of the 5th District is still quite rural, and a lot of these farmers need, or say they need, these illegal immigrants to do the jobs. What do you say to them when you tell them
I say what we're going to have here, we have price elasticity of demand, and it's not going to put tomatoes out of the price range of someone at the supermarket. We have substitutes for these things. What the farmers need to do, and they've enjoyed this cushion, this supplement that they've been working on by hiring people from whom they can gain work at lower wages and substandard working conditions and so on and so forth. What they need to do is raise their wages to attract. There's plenty of Americans out of work right now that will, for the right price, it's just price elasticity of demand, economics 101. You raise the price for labor, you're going to have labor if you don't have it. It's very simple.
Do you favor any path toward citizenship or anything?
Absolutely, I do, and it's illuminated on
okay,
my
well,
website.
you gave us a paragraph, and none of that's in here. So
I know, because you have a limited space for each of the topics. Go to my website, and you can see that I do, and that's part of the.
Because this position you put right here sounds very conservative.
It is conservative.
Very Republican.
It is conservative. It's very conservative, and that's why she was portraying me as she would. I've seen some of the debates from last time, and she would go and say, "John's going to give, I'm not going to give Social Security benefits to illegal immigrants." I wasn't either. She was insinuating to get this out there. I've seen the tactics, so I'm more prepared this time. I am about. One of the points of negotiation on immigration is going to be who stays and who goes. And that's a point of contention where we're going to sit down and negotiate that, and I guess talk to groups and actually get some work done on this issue. And Pat Buchanan basically espouses what I talk about. Lou Dobbs basically espouses what I talk about, and I think I may have preceded
you align yourself with Lou Dobbs when it comes to illegal immigration?
I am very good with Lou Dobbs. I don't agree with him on everything, but I'm very much aligned myself with Lou Dobbs. I'm not this left-wing, pacifist person, or whatever you want to call it, that people try to portray me as, or certainly the right-wingers would want to. Republicans don't get a discount at the gas pump. When you go to the gas pump, they don't get special dispensation when they can't make their mortgage payments. They go into foreclosure too, and that's where we're at. Simple question: better off today than you were before? Do you think you can stay with the same deal? Real simple. You got an alternative, and if people look at the facts, you got to go with John Russell. You got to go with John Russell this time. Can't afford
health insurance. Health care is the cornerstone of your campaign because of your background.
It's a big piece and very important in that economic mix. Remember that the war, a lot of this problem with the energy prices has to do with devaluation of the dollar because we're financing the war with Chinese money. Our credit cards through the roof, and so the return on investment, the risk-free rate of return on investment, which is the T-bill, is now relatively more risky, and that's why that has happened with the devaluation of the dollar, is because of the riskier nature of the American economy.
So is health insurance, is health care the number one issue in your campaign? Or what is the number one issue?
I think the war as it relates to these other issues. They do not stand alone. Yeah, exactly.
On health care, what you favor?
The John Edwards plan of implementation, which cannot be fought, because if you want to keep your Blue Cross and Blue Shield, you can. But we're going to have an improved Medicare for all.
Mandatory health care? How far are you willing to go with this? more Barack Obama or more toward Hillary?
I'm more. Well, Hillary is Edwards. Edwards was the first one, so Hillary was Edwards. So it's more. You want to say Hillary Edwards? That's what I favor the John Edwards plan.
Mandatory covers everyone.
Yeah, we want to cover everybody, and again, that may be a point of negotiation.
Okay.
This is just my starting positions for negotiation, and I start with strong positions. And then we work from there. You never negotiate for a car. I'll give you what you're asking for it. That's just not how you work.
I just found it interesting, and I went to this after you said, I have a national health care plan, but no, it's John Edwards' plan.
It's not John Edwards.
You said I guess I was expecting.
I do, because it's the Edwards plan differs in the way it's implemented. I previously supported HR 676, and that's on my website, which is going to take a long time to implement. This one implements just because of the economic dynamics. If you're paying 3 times as much for Blue Cross and Blue Shield, you're going to pay a tax or a premium. You're not going to pay your health care premiums anymore. You're going to pay a premium to the Medicare for All that will be based on income, a progressive sum, tax, premium, with a ceiling on it. So Warren Buffett isn't going to pay any more than Donald Trump, so it's fair. Then we got something that a lot of people can agree with.
Well, you started to go off on how your plan differs from John Edwards. Bullet points. What are those ways, or does it at all?
There's reams of the problem. I'm looking more at. We got to have a plan that supports the people who provide health care. We're getting rid of that 40% over time as the private insurance industry is whittled away. Remembering, of course, that a head of an industry organization said that, this was in like 2005, that over our dead bodies will we allow single-payer health care to occur. So we got a tremendous fight, and it requires people with backbone to carry the fight for the people. So my health care plan, we're looking at, we want, very simply, to make sure everyone has access to health care, to quality, affordable, even beyond basic health care. We're looking at long-term care.
Is more Barack Obama as opposed
no.
to
Access,
others, which are
when you study health care management, access is a key variable when we talk about this. What people have right now, including yours truly, I recently applied for health insurance with Humana, and I was turned down. Now, I can hit a golf ball 250 yards. I play ice hockey still with 20-year-olds, okay, fairly competitively. And the bottom line is I had a bone scan a couple of years ago where they found it in my back, a little degenerative joint disease. Well, you and I, you're pretty close to my age, I think. Everybody that's over age 50 is going to have degenerative joint disease, okay? It's a question of what is the degree. I don't have ankylosing spondylosis. Whatever. I know what that is. I'm Derek, you know. But yeah. So the point is, what are they doing? They're using any reason they can. Either they're going to price you out, or and it's really elimination of risk rather than risk management. And with my background, I can understand the economics of these things and how they work and how they're working. And so I provide a much better advocate for people who need health care.
Give me the pitch. Explain this to someone who knows nothing about all this medical background but comes to you and says they can't find health insurance and it's too expensive and the whole system's broken. What do you tell them about your background that enables them to believe what you're saying?
I not only take care of patients, but I have special education in developing a national health care plan. I took my healthcare systems management courses at the State University of New York at Buffalo, which is an MBA, certification. Okay, so a Master's in Business Administration. And at that time, they were talking about the Hillary plan when I was taking those courses. Yeah. They were talking about the Hillary plan with.
He wasn't even elected.
He wasn't elected, but the talk was of it because that's where they were talking. They were talking about national health care. Okay. And so the point being, I understand as a person who provides health care, this is very important. I understand where you can set something aside and where you can't. Like pharmaceuticals are huge. in healthcare today. And so to say, well, we're gonna cover this, but we're not gonna cover that, when that is very, very important to your well-being. Preventative healthcare is one thing that I am very big on, because that's where the money is in having a longer life and a higher quality of life. There's huge low-hanging fruit with diabetes. 90% of renal dialysis patients are diabetics. And this is all about, I mean, I can explain this.
Yeah, I'm looking for your 30-second pitch, and I'm not sure I heard it yet.
Well, my background as someone who cares for patients, my background academically, as well as I've been in home health management in the past as well, understanding how all this works together to facilitate you receiving care. You're not going to get this from an insurance salesman. You're not going to get it from a guy who was successful in real estate and went into politics. You're not going to get it from an engineer. You're going to get it from a guy like me who, when we're talking about national health care reform, has your best interests in mind, because you know what? I know what those interests are. That's a 30-second pitch.
And it's interesting, your background, because you throw a line in here about, you know, you want to change the financing system, but then you also want to make sure the professionals that care for us get adequately compensated.
Because Medicare, if you're
it's just interesting because you're in the
Let me
system,
give you an example.
And a lot of the complaints about the plan is the doctor is complaining that they're not going to get much money from the new Barack Obama health plan.
They've been not getting a lot of money for a long time now. You know, as a guy who calls
only on their federal government patients.
Yeah, but that's an increasing. Let me tell you this: case managers that I talk with, the people that do the, you know, going around talking about the insurance with the patients, you know, while they're in the hospital, big increase in the number of self-payers. What's a self-payer? Self-payer is a person without insurance. And this is where we're going with this. So we're providing care. We're not leaving people to the side. Let me just finish, because this is important. Leaving people at the side of the road, we're not doing that yet, okay? But when you talk about calling a consult to a doctor, and I know this from firsthand experience, and some doctors say, well, what kind of insurance does he have? Why don't you refer him to him? You take an order and you write an order and refer the patient to this other guy who does take Medicare or Medicaid, okay? And so that means your access to health care with that particular professional who may be more competent in this particular issue that you have healthcare-wise, you're not getting access to that patient. So we have to the money, that 40% that we're saving, that we would in the end save with all the insurance stuff that doesn't go to the bedside, is going to go towards paying healthcare professionals like physicians and nurse practitioners and other healthcare professionals to provide the care, making these occupations and professions more attractive to the kinds of people we want taking care of us. We don't want business-oriented physicians. We want physicians who are healthcare-oriented, who love taking care of you, because healthcare is really such an interesting profession when you're into it to the level I am, or physicians. 2 years ago, the heart surgeons, and I'm still dealing with the heart surgeons, they talked to me and supported me because of their issues. You know, if you're getting $1,500 for an open heart surgery, including follow-up care, and sometimes that can be a complex case, these guys aren't making the kind of money that one thinks they would. A guy getting called in, a surgeon, general surgeon, to get called into the hospital, say St. Joe's, in the middle of the night, to put in a central line, gets paid $35 for that by Medicare or Medicaid. How's that sound? So you get up out of bed, whatever, and you go down to the hospital and you spend, the whole thing said and done, you spend an hour down at the hospital, whatever. But I mean, that's the kind of stuff that goes on.
I was just interested. I mean, your knowledge of it obviously gives you an advantage, but I'm wondering if someone can turn that around and say, you also have a conflict of interest because you want to make sure you get paid in this process.
That is a ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
I'm just
if I'm in Congress, there's no conflict of interest.
Okay.
There's no conflict of interest because don't you believe, personally, I'll turn that around on you, don't you want healthcare professionals that are well paid and aren't worried about paying their mortgage or paying their car payment or whatever when they're taking care of you? You want them totally focused on you, and we have doctors that are dropping out.
Sure.
So this is why.
My question.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think
Rock's your top issue.
We're at our 11 11 o'clock. No.
A rock's your
So
top
let's
issue,
wrap
real
this
quick.
up now.
Because
everything else is intertwined with a rock. Okay.
well, I'm not asking that.
I know, but that's the point I want to
You advocate for a
make.
safe, efficient, orderly, efficient, and safe withdrawal. How soon? What's your time?
I'm in agreement with Maliki and Obama. I think around 16 months, and that may vary. There may be a standard deviation there. Safe, effective. We're probably going to need to still continue to provide logistical support and material support, and you know, there may be some other things. I'm not a military guy.
Sure.
Okay, but I can't make decisions if I'm given the information.
Not
all combat troops out.
Okay.
Okay, and that's what's again this cost drain. You know, based on the credit with the Chinese.
Even if we leave some there, though, and they're called in to help, they're technically combat troops. I mean, how many do you plan on keeping there, and how long would you like to keep them?
I can't say that. I don't have all the information at my disposal. When I'm in Congress, I think I'll have more hard, real-time information at my disposal. I mean, that's what Congress people are supposed to have, right? So, yeah, in summary, real simple. We have two choices. One path is going to be vote for the status quo, and the other path, and this is going to be voting for someone different with your interest in mind, and that's going to happen across this country.
Extend the payroll tax to higher income levels. What level?
I think I have detailed information on that. The payroll, it's 90-something thousand right now, which means a guy who earns minimum wage
What
pays
level? What number?
I think I say initially raise it to 150,000 and then incrementally over periods of time. Again, these are points of negotiation to up to the level of 300,000. Okay? It just if it hasn't been
Talking about
raised.
the housing market, who's to blame? Who do you think's at fault for the housing market right now? I read all this.
Certainly, this goes back to the Clinton administration when you repeal Glass-Steagall.
10-second answer.
Yeah, it's not that 10-second answer. It's a Glass-Steagall going to Clinton. It's legislative deregulation is the problem. And who did the deregulation? The people in the Congress, the executive branch. They're all bear shared responsibility.
Okay, if Greg can indulge me for just a real minute.
That's fine. I can indulge you, no problem.
What do you feel like you have to overcome some of the bumps in your past campaigns to get elected this time around?
Not at all. This is a new campaign. Anybody has any questions?